CM Punk was a guest on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani today, and there's a lot. CM Punk been chatting away about his WWE return, about Vince McMahon. He talked about the All Out, Brawl Out, Fallout. He talked about his time in AEW. Talked about Jack Perry. Gave us a little tease of what we could have had at WrestleMania this year and what we're going to get at WrestleMania this year. We're going to get into all of it. So when it comes to his return at Survivor Series for WWE, he says it started the conversation around the week of Thanksgiving. He said, I had a CFFC show coming up, and I got a call from Nick Khan. He was like, we want to talk to you. And I had a show coming up, and we had the call on Monday, 5 days before the return. Punk revealed that there was no compete clause after his departure from AEW. Don't worry, we'll get into that as well. And he told this to Nick Khan, and Khan responded saying, I wish I knew that. Which suggests to me that CM Punk's return could have been even sooner than Survivor Series. Punk also revealed that the only people that knew about his return was his wife, AJ Lee, who, by the way, is not returning to WWE. That was something else that we got from this interview as well. Nick Khan, Triple H, and the lawyers. In fact, he was driving to the building for his return at Survivor Series when he rang his family and said, oh, by the way, I'm going back to WWE. He told them as he was arriving at the building, according to what he told Ariel Helwani tonight. Now, obviously, from there were big WrestleMania plans for CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and they were scuppered owing to his triceps injury. He confirms on the MMA Hour that, yes, the plan was for WrestleMania 40 to have CM Punk versus Seth Rollins for the World Championship. He also believes that match would have main evented WrestleMania Night 1 as opposed to this tag match, this gargantuan tag match that we're getting instead. CM Punk tells Helwani that as well as doing the commentary for the world title match between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, he's going to be doing the kickoff show for Night 1 and Night 2. So you're going to hear a lot of CM Punk over WrestleMania weekend, it would seem. Punk talks about his injury, and he's cautiously optimistic as CM Punk. He reckons that he can recover in half the time that other triceps injury sufferers have done so. He also believes that he can recover from his triceps injury in half the time that he did his previous triceps injury as well. He is coming back for something big as well. He says there are stories in place for him upon his return. He revealed that when he popped backstage at WWE during his time off between the Brawl Out and the Brawl In, he obviously turned up at Raw in Chicago, and a lot of AEW stars, he said, felt betrayed by him doing that whilst he was under contract with AEW. He asked if WWE, did Ariel Helwani, he asked CM Punk if WWE was the same place that it was when he left, and he said it wasn't. He said one person backstage actually credited CM Punk for creating this change in culture behind the scenes. He went on to discuss some of the difference in the WWE culture between then and now. He said, to talk about the way the culture is now, you have to talk about how it was when I got there. Cutthroat, Shark Tank, everyone looked at me like, F you, why are you here? You don't belong here. It was brutal. Now, it's more laid back, and that's probably the best way to say it. It's a relaxed atmosphere. He talks about Vince McMahon. And you may have seen some of these comments already regarding Vince McMahon, but we'll get into them. He talks first of all about his last meeting with Vince and says, I saw him at the Towers. I was at SmackDown and they said, do you want to come on the jet to NXT? And they gave me the tour of the new Towers. And I'm on the phone training, and Vince's trainer came up, and Vince doesn't like people on the phone in the gym. He came up to me, Vince said, welcome home. He gave me a hug and said, we'll have to catch up, and I haven't seen him since. Ariel asked about that, and CM Punk said, I think some stuff came up, Ariel. CM Punk interestingly said that he would never have been allowed on WWE TV with grey in his beard if Vince McMahon was still there. This is something we've heard a few times about Vince McMahon, that that desire for everybody to look as young as possible. We hear stories of people who work at the Performance Center dyeing their hair so that when Vince comes around, everybody looks like they did 20 years ago. So that's kind of in line with some stories we've heard about Vince in the past. He went on to discuss Vince McMahon and the allegations that were made, and he drew comparisons to the Chris Benoit incident in which two people lost their lives and Benoit took his own. CM Punk says, I was friends with Chris Benoit. I'm famously on camera weeping because at the time we didn't know. And the week prior, I'm traveling with him and he runs me into the trainer's room and his little son is in there taping up his hands and putting X's on his hands like CM Punk. Punk says he doesn't have memories of what Benoit did. And at the same time, he's never been in a room when Vince was assaulting someone. But said, there's part of me where, just like Benoit, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see it. It's very hard to reconcile. I read what Becky said. He was like a father figure to her, and it's just been wild. It's sad. He ruined his life, ruining other people's lives. So there's very much a part of me that is like, we got him. Good. Shuffle him into the basement. Punk then turns his attention to Jack Perry and the incident at AEW All In at Wembley that saw him depart All Elite Wrestling. Now, he starts off with the fallout from AEW All Out in 2022, and he reveals that he actually suggested that after Brawl Out, that Tony simply let him go from his deal. This is a development. CM Punk says Tony's big idea following the All Out incident was separate shows. We're going to separate everybody. I said it would never work. Just let me go. Who cares? It's best. These guys don't want me here. This isn't a real business. This isn't a business predicated on making money, drawing money, selling tickets. It's not what it was sold to me as. Let me go. The second day we had this show, AEW Collision, I'm sitting in catering and Tony Schiavone comes to get me. He says, Jack is cussing me out. He cussed out Mike Mansouri. He's cussing out the doctor right now. I was told people were being separated, so there's not problems, so you don't want me in this. You all need to handle this, because if you don't, I'm going to handle this, and you're not going to like how I'm going to handle this. I don't know anything about Jack being on vacation, but there are people that work one day a week and don't want to. They want to show up, wrestle and film vignettes, and then sit at home for weeks. What do you want? It's not my company. It's not my show. Not on my show, at least. What Jack wanted to do was he wanted to smash the window of a rental car with a pipe. I was like, the doc's told you no, Daryl's told you no, Mike's told you no, Shivani's told you no, and apparently you've cussed them out. So I am telling you no. We don't do that here. You want to do that? Go to Wednesday and do that. To come to this show and everyone's supposed to be separated to get rid of all the drama, and you're swearing at the doctor because it's real glass, it's going to get in your eye, there's a safe way to do that. And I politely said that to him. I said, this is a different show. You want to do that? Go do that on Wednesday. He clearly took something very business-minded, very personally, which is fine, because I've done that before too, and it's very much who he's friends with, and it never got squashed. Nobody's in charge, and it turned into what it turned into. He then moves on to the incident at Wembley, and he tells Ariel Helwani, Jack came back from the match. I was the next match, and I've got people with me. I walk up, and I'm like, why do you insist on doing this dumb internet SH1T on TV? He was like, well, if you've got a problem, do something about it. And I'm like, come on, man, I'd kill you. What are we doing? I thought I was doing the responsible thing. I didn't punch anybody. I just choked somebody a little bit. Samoa Joe was there. He told me to stop. Then I quit. I turned to Tony. I said, this place is a joke, man. You're a clown. I quit. Tony Khan, that is. No, you leave Tony Schiavone alone. He's a national treasure. I went to my room. Joe and Jerry Lynn got me, and we said, let's go out there and kill it. I was just too fired up, and I'm fired up now. I'm probably going to regret talking about it. Punk knew that his time with AEW was up after that match with Samoa Joe. He said, I was like, this is the last time I'm ever going to wrestle Samoa Joe. This is my last match in the company. Yeah, I quit. I said I effing quit. Ariel asked Punk why he went out to wrestle, and he said he did it for Samoa Joe. He did it for the referee, Paul Turner. He did it for Jerry Lynn, who was agenting the match, and he did it for the fans. He said it was the professional thing to do, he thought. He then spoke about working with Tony Khan. And he said, I don't like the drama, but the truth is the truth. He's not a boss. He's not a nice guy. And ultimately, I think that is a detriment to the company. But it's not my company. I'm an outsider. I thought I was brought in to sell pay-per-views and tickets and draw numbers, and I clearly did that. That's clearly not what the place is about, and some people didn't like that. He adds that AEW will exist for as long as Tony Khan wants it to, saying that his priorities don't align with many, saying that if you're more worried about 5-star ratings than quarter-filled buildings, then you aren't in the same business. Punk then took us back to the incident before All Out, that promo with Hangman Page. We told you that nothing was left, no stone was left unturned in this interview with Ariel Helwani. And he says, one of the biggest criticisms about WWE was it was overly scripted. Wrestlers don't need writers. Some people don't and some people do. Some people prefer it. I sat down with Page and we hammered out this promo. And then he proceeds to go on live TV and not say anything we talked about. I can't hear him because the crowd is so loud. I have to really pay attention to what he's saying because my responses matter. I can't just say what I had planned because it's not going to match what he's saying to me. Afterwards, I spoke to him and I was like, why did you do that? He thinks I got one of his friends who hasn't been fired. I went to Tony and the lawyer and I said, you need to fix that because if I do, you're not going to like the way I fix it. I thought I was being professional by not murdering him on television. The friend in question, of course, he's talking about Colt Cabana. He says that in terms of whether there's ever the chance of a friendship again with Colt Cabana, he doesn't think he'll ever bury the hatchet with Colt. He says that Cabana approached him sometime before the infamous media scrum, which we were about to get to talk things through so it wouldn't be awkward. And he told Colt that he never talked to him without a lawyer again. So that's where they are at. He says when it comes to that media scrum, there was a lot of frustration about it. He said, I know some people are going to be upset about what happened with me and Paige, but with me, respect is the default. Until you do something that makes me lose my respect for you. I had never done anything to any of these guys, and they are basing how their attitude is towards me based on some bull SH1T a friend told them. I can't help you. Everything went off the rails from there. It's a shame. He says he walks out into that media scrum and saw reporters that report SH1T about you, and it's like it's fact without ever checking with you, who are openly friends with other wrestlers. It's high school, cliquey, drama, bull SH1T. I can't say that word because YouTube will tell us off. I get there and I see these goofs and I just lose my temper. Top 3 CM Punk promo though, end quote. Punk doesn't think he'll ever bury the hatchet with Colt Cabana, as we've already said. And in the aftermath of the All Out press conference, he didn't have the chance to bury the hatchet with anybody. He says while he was convalescing from his triceps injury, quote, nobody in the company spoke to me for 6 months. I paid for my surgery. I booked my surgery. Thankfully, Dr. Sampson, who I knew from WWE and had a good rapport with, helped me with that. But I was on my own with all that stuff. If you think I deserve to be fired or treated like that, that's your opinion. It's none of my business what you think of me. The recovery from this triceps injury, the one that he currently has, compared to the recovery from that one, is night and day. It's almost a comparison between places where there's structure, there's protocols and professional people in charge of things, and I'm not having to research and find a PT spot. I had no help, nothing. That's insane to me. Is that how they treat the Jaguars players? I don't know. I don't think anyone should be treated like that if you're a professional athlete. I had no help. Nobody would speak to me. Reflecting on his run in AEW, Punk says, I think people expect me to burn it all down, but I made a lot of great friends there, which is ironic. But the people that you work with wind up becoming friends. You wind up becoming friends with. I did cool stuff. I got to work with Sting like, it's not even on the bucket list because you don't consider it a possibility. But I worked with Sting at the Greensboro Coliseum. I think the positives outweigh the negatives. I look at it more like I thought I was coming in to help business. If I could teach something, great. And I think I was brought in for other reasons. There is a lot in this interview. And if that has whet your appetite and you've got the time for it, I suggest you go and check out the interview yourself on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. If you don't, well, that's the important stuff coming out of it. CM Punk, I think there's a lot of conversations we've been waiting for CM Punk to have. I think there's pardon the cliche, the pipe bombs we've been waiting for CM Punk to drop. Drops them all at once on an Easter Monday on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. For the very latest wrestling news throughout the week, you can check out Cultaholic.com. Happy WrestleMania week. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.